I sensed something was off the instant I stepped through my front door. After 2 blissful weeks of turquoise water, warm sand, and coconut drinks in Maui, I had expected to walk into the familiar comfort of my home. Instead, I froze at the threshold. My heart thudded in my chest as my eyes locked onto the muddy footprints smeared across my pristine hardwood floors. Someone had been here. I let my suitcase drop with a dull thud and carefully followed the trail deeper into the house. It snaked through the living room, where my coffee table, usually perfectly centered on the rug, had been nudged about 6 inches out of place. At first glance, nothing seemed stolen, but something intangible, something sacred, had been disturbed. Then I saw it. A single yellow sticky note was stuck to my refrigerator door. In neat, looping handwriting, it read, "Routine. Inspection. It's nothing to worry about." It was signed Brenda Carmichael, HOA president, with a cheerful little smiley face. My blood turned to ice. What kind of routine inspection involves someone waltzing into my locked home while I was on another continent? Before I left, I'd done everything by the book. Light timer set to random intervals, mail delivery paused, neighbor David watching the house. I was supposed to be safe here. That's what we were all promised when we bought into Maplewood Valley. A gated community with manicured lawns, tight HOA regulations, and sky-high fees supposedly guaranteeing peace of mind. I never imagined the HOA president herself would abuse that trust. I grabbed my phone and dialed David. "Hey, did you notice anyone going into my house while I was gone?" I tried to keep the shake out of my voice. David paused. "No, not inside. But I did see Brenda's car parked out front a few days ago. I figured she was just leaving one of those newsletters." I didn't waste another second. I opened my home security app and scrolled through the recorded footage. There she was, Brenda Carmichael, pastel pantsuit and all. Striding up to my front door last Tuesday at exactly 2:17 p.m., she cast a quick look over her shoulder, then pulled out a key. My key. I watched. Jaw clenched as she unlocked my door and slipped inside. For nearly 40 minutes, she prowled through my living room, dragging a finger across my shelves, flipping through the mail I'd left on the counter, even opening my refrigerator like she owned the place. Clipboard in hand, she scribbled something down, inspecting every corner like a smug queen surveying her kingdom. When she finally left, she wore that same superior little grin she always had at HOA meetings when denying a paint color request. My anger boiled over. Without thinking, I grabbed my keys and drove straight to her house. The one with the unnervingly perfect hedges and a sign in the front yard declaring HOA president like some kind of throne. Brenda opened the door with her signature Stepford smile, but it faltered when she saw my face. "You're back from vacation. How was it?" she sang, feigning innocence. I didn't bother with pleasantries. "Why were you in my house, Brenda?" I demanded. She didn't even blush. "It was just a routine wellness check," she replied airily, flicking her hand like she was swatting a fly. "We do them for all residents who are away for extended periods. It's for your protection." I stared at her, my pulse pounding in my ears. "Really?" I asked slowly, each word sharp. "Where in the HOA bylaws does it say anything about breaking into people's homes for a so-called wellness check?" Her smile stiffened like drying paint, but she didn't back down. That was the thing about Brenda. She never did. "It's an unwritten policy," Brenda said coolly, folding her arms like a queen addressing a peasant. "As president, I have certain discretionary powers to ensure community standards are maintained." Something about that answer made my stomach twist. I'd read the HOA agreement front to back before buying this house. I'm an attorney. I know how to read fine print. Nowhere did it grant the president the right to enter anyone's home without permission, except in actual emergencies, water leaks, fires, that sort of thing. This was no wellness check. I decided to dig deeper. Over the next few days, I went door to door quietly talking with other Maplewood Valley homeowners. What I heard was unsettling. Several residents admitted they'd noticed things slightly out of place after coming home from trips. Picture frames turned, furniture shifted, but brushed it off as forgetfulness. Others had spotted Brenda skulking around when owners were away, but were too intimidated to challenge her. Then, Arthur, who lived 3 doors down, finally opened up. She came into my house when I was in the hospital. Last year, he confessed, lowering his voice. Said she needed to make sure I wasn't violating any codes while I was gone. What was I supposed to do? She threatens people over garbage cans being left out for 10 minutes too long. I gathered everything, my security footage. Witness statements from neighbors highlighted HOA bylaws showing there was no such thing as a wellness check, and documentation of the emergency key lockbox that was only meant to be accessed during real emergencies. And that's when the most damning details surfaced. Brenda had been using these unauthorized entries to dig up dirt on homeowners she didn't like. Personal vendettas disguised as community protection. The day before the monthly HOA meeting, I filed a police report for breaking and entering. Then I prepared my presentation. The community center was packed on Thursday evening. Brenda sat at the center of the long board table, gavel in hand, looking smug as ever. She loved these meetings, loved the control. When the agenda turned to new business, I rose. My voice was calm, steady. I'd like to address a serious security concern regarding unauthorized entry into residence. Holmes, Brenda's head snapped up, eyes narrowing like a hawk. I connected my laptop to the projector. The room felt quiet as the footage played. Brenda in her pastel suit, key in hand, walking into my house. 40 minutes inside, smug smile on the way out. What you're seeing, I explained evenly, is our HOA president using a key from the emergency lockbox to enter my home without permission while I was on vacation. This is not only a violation of HOA bylaws, but also state law. Brenda's face flushed crimson. She slammed her gavel down. This is out of order. Ellie's wellness checks are for community protection. That's when I played the recorded testimonies from other homeowners. The unease in the room grew palpable. Board members shifted in their seats. There is no wellness check provision in our bylaws, I continued firmly. What is there is a clear rule stating that emergency keys are to be used only in cases of water leaks, fires, or other urgent situations. Nothing else. And then, right on cue, 2 police officers quietly entered the back of the room. Brenda saw them and shot to her feet, knocking her chair backward. "This is ridiculous," she screeched. "I was protecting the integrity of our community. People leave windows open, appliances on. They could have forbidden items. Someone has to enforce the rules." Her voice rose to a shrill pitch and the room fell into stunned silence. "So you admit you've been entering homes?" Without permission to search for violations, I asked softly. She blinked rapidly, realizing too late what she'd said. "Someone has to maintain standards. Do you know what would happen if I didn't? Property values would plummet. People would paint their houses purple and put those tacky flamingo ornaments on their lawns." Her polished facade was crumbling fast. Then she jabbed a finger at me. "And your garbage can was visible from the street last month, and your blinds don't match the approved color palette." The officers stepped forward as she spiraled. "Mrs. Carmichael," one of them said firmly, "we need you to come with us. You're being placed under arrest for trespassing, unlawful entry, and abuse of authority." Her expression flipped from fury to stunned disbelief as they recited her rights. "This is absurd," she shrieked as they led her away. "The HOA president, I have keys to all your homes. It's going to make sure everyone follows the rules now." The entire room watched in silence as the woman who'd fined people for grass half an inch too tall was escorted out in handcuffs, still insisting she was just doing her job. One of the remaining board members finally cleared his throat. "I think we should call an emergency election for a new president," he said. The motion passed unanimously. 3 months later, Brenda's case went to trial. The judge was not impressed by her argument that HOA authority somehow overrode basic property rights. She was found guilty of multiple counts of breaking and entering, plus trespassing charges from more than a dozen homeowners who came forward after her arrest. Her sentence, 18 months in prison and $25,000 in fines and restitution. As the gavel came down, Brenda's perfectly composed image finally shattered. But who will make sure everyone follows the rules? She wailed as she was led out of the courtroom. Who will protect our property values now? This time, no one answered. Subscribe to HOA Conflicts for more.